Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order on this beautiful day. May we ask our assistant to do a roll call?
Mr. Carano.
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan. Ms. Cooney. Here. Mr. Curtis.
Here.
Mr. Dortch.
Here.
Mr. Finland. Mr. Flynn.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Hawkins.
Here.
Mr. Humke.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Ms. Weber. Ms. Zadra.
Thank you. I believe that would show that we have a quorum present. Let us proceed with the pledge to the flag. Mr. Sullivan, would you lead us in the pledge? Thank you very much. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Mr. Sullivan has requested that item 7D or D be pulled at this time. Are there any other matters anyone wishes to have pulled or any other treatment? D, Delta, David, Dog, Durango, sorry. Mr. Hall.
The pulling of item 7D, is that to table the item or is that to discuss it outside of consent?
I think it is to pull it from today's agenda and to bring it back at a later time. Is that correct, sir?
Okay. Thank you.
D, bottom of the page, D. If there are no other changes, may we have a motion to amend and approve?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion, Councilman Dortch, second by Mr. Carano, to amend and approve the agenda. Any discussion of that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. That would take us to initial public comment, general public comment. I got 3 items here. That agenda item is blank. Mr. Wilburn, Mr. Douglas, Mr. Mansour, general public comment, or is it as to one of the items on here? Go ahead, sir. If you would kindly begin by listing your name, we would appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Matt Mansour, and I came and spoke to you guys a couple of months ago, and that's the reason I'm back, is you guys lied to me about the Reno air races. I came in here and I was upset because you guys were funding the Reno air races before they had insurance. And I was assured by Dwight and the other members that that was not going to happen, that they need to have proof of insurance before you guys were going to give them money. And so I'm upset about that. And I had some questions too. As I sat through the meeting, I was here when they were doing this big, long report that you guys, I'm sure, spent a lot of money to have put together for you. And what's interesting on here, the Reno air races aren't named in this thing at all. And when we're talking on the top individual events and entertainment sports in the Reno area, air races aren't on here. They're not. Reno Beer Crawl's on here. Hairspray is on here. Bighorn Basketball, Buddy Holly story is on here. There's no mention of the air races. So what are you guys thinking, giving these guys massive amounts of money? Do you guys believe Mike Houghton in his propaganda? If you do, Mike Houghton goes around claiming that he gets 200,000 people to his event. Okay, if you guys believe that, just go back to Mike Houghton and say, you need $2 million for insurance, just raise each ticket by $10. You're done. Okay. But, if he truly did have 200,000 spectators, that would make that the largest event in the entire state. So do you guys really believe him? Federal aviation safety came back and said that they're recommending G suits, and they're saying that the crash was caused because the pilot blacked out because he's pulling too many Gs. And they even went on to say that most likely they were blacking out on previous laps. So they recommended, that they implement G suits. Mike Houghton came back and publicly said, well, that's too expensive. I don't think we can do that. Okay. But you guys want to give them money. Comparing this to motorsports is ridiculous. Indy cars and NASCARs are limited events. Reno Air Races prides itself as being an unlimited sporting event. Indy cars, NASCAR, they take every safety precaution possible to have a safe event and spend a lot of money doing it so they can have their events. Okay. The air races, safety is not precedent. It's selling tickets to pay for insurance is precedent on this. 10 people were killed at this event last year. And this event, Reno Air Races, isn't even in your own study. My question is, are you guys corrupt, or are you guys just stupid and you don't read your own reports? Thank you.
Anybody else for general public comment?
Good morning. My name is Patrick Douglas. I represent the RV park owners in this area. I own Shamrock RV Park, which this year has been voted the top 100 RV parks in the United States. We're 24 years old and proud of that. We maintain a very legal and clean and honorable facility and pay a lot of money into the Rscva. My family's third generation casino motel families that actually started the Rscva in its heyday to have a certain cause. The cause has been changed substantially. We have strictly a marketing company here that you don't want to step on their toes because they have an agenda that doesn't they don't care about specifically to the businessman in this area. We've been attending the airport authorities meetings on this. I have been trying to get the illegal RV park camping out at the air races to end. We have our Air Race Association has 100 spaces. The Optimist has 200 dry camping spaces. This used to be a big event for us. We used to sell out a year in advance. We have 2 reservations on our books. We're lacking the 300 campers that are out here. At the air race group sits out there in their circles. They don't come into town and spend money in the casinos. They've circled their wagons. They're not leaving the area. There's lack of fire and health and safety protection going on. Our airport board voted to continue on and ignored some of my requests because they don't care. They want their $46,000 in rent and their indemnity and their insurance indemnity to get their money out of the renting of the facility to the Air Race Association. I've asked Mike to cooperate with me. He's not going to give up a revenue source. He's going to sell his 100 spaces, RV camping in its own little corner. This is an extreme event. Just a matter of time before a plane goes flying into RV spaces. Just a matter of time before it goes into the school. This thing should be held on a military base. If you're going to do extreme racing, not this nice air show facility, not a good place to have extreme racing. I've been asking the Rscva to get involved in why are they not paying room tax even for the 300 spaces. That's been going on. There should be an audit for the last 10 years against the Air Race Association and say, where is my room tax money? You're selling RV spaces, but we have to pay room tax. Why don't they have to pay room tax? But of course, this goes a step further. That's why I went on general comment today. This goes a step further because we have our own livestock events facility that leases, has scabbed in 50 spaces. I don't know where the status is of the 60 spaces that you're building with my room tax money today. We don't get any benefits from any events anymore from the Livestock Event Center. And then when you lease or sell to yourself, rent spaces on the Livestock Event Center, you don't charge room tax there either.
Thank you, sir. Please
Thank you.
conclude your sentence. Thank you.
That was it. Any questions?
We can't do
Oh,
questions.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilburn signed in. Is that general public comment?
No, sir. I just wanted the opportunity if there were questions during our agenda item to address those.
All right. And what item is that? What number?
I don't have the agenda.
It's 7C Air Races.
7C. Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll call on you at that time. No other general public comment? One last time. Anyone has not signed in? Seeing none, let us move on to item 5, review and approval of the minutes, June 28th. Any additions, corrections, amendments?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Updates and reports. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of things I wanted to share with you today about observations and some successes we've had recently. If I could have the presentation pulled up on the screen from Seattle. I recently attended with Mr. Lyon the Destination Marketing Association convention up in Seattle, Washington. And Seattle's a town that I have a lot of history with. I lived there on 3 different occasions, first in 1979. And while I was there, I was really struck by the incredible transformation that destination has made during my business career. Starting in the late 70s, I was back there in the 80s. I was there in the late 80s to the early 90s, and then going back as an occasional visitor today. I'm just struck by the progress, steady progress that city has made. So I took a couple of shots there that I wanted to share, and it's kind of food for thought about how what Seattle has learned and accomplished over the last 20 years might have an application here in the greater Reno area. Yeah. I'll let you advance it. This first shot you're going to see is of the iconic Pike Place Market. I'm sure many of you have been to Seattle. This public market center, if you can believe it, there was a time when there was a significant movement to tear it down as being an eyesore. But cooler heads prevailed, and it has become the #1 tourism attraction, certainly in Seattle and perhaps even the entire Northwest. Simple concept, an open market with vendors selling everything from flowers and fish to crafts and T-shirts. But the ambiance, the way it is executed, the historical feel to it, and yet the modern cleanliness that it represents has just hit a sweet spot with people. And it's a rare business traveler or tourist who doesn't spend time at the Pike Place Market spending money when they're in the city of Seattle. Charlotte, if we can advance. Oh, I'm sorry. However, this is what's across the street. And my point here is you don't have to be perfect to be successful. So right across from the #1 tourist attraction in Seattle, the city that gets all sorts of glowing reports, is the Showgirls nude dance bar. You know, we often think that if everything isn't great, nobody's going to come, or if somebody sees something here that they don't approve of, it's going to ruin the tourist experience. Seattle's a very successful tourist destination, and their #1 tourist attraction, this is what you see when you turn 180 degrees from that iconic view of the Pike Place Public Market. Just a reminder that you can make progress, and everything doesn't have to be accomplished overnight, but steady progress can bring you a lot of very positive results. Next up is probably the most famous element of that Pike Place Market, this Pike Place Fish Market where they have the flying fish. People come in and order salmon or whatever they see there on ice that they like, and there's a bit of showmanship involved. They call out to each other, and somebody picks up the fish, and the guy at the far end of the booth holds his hands up, and it sails through the air. Well, I tell you, the number of flashes that go off, the crowds that rush in to see this activity 7 days a week are incredible. A little clever twist on buying fish has become a major tourism draw. It is a must-see for visitors there. They sell shirts, they sell aprons, they sell fish. They can ship it to you anywhere in the country. But it's a good example of how creativity took something as mundane as buying fish and turned it into show business. And it is kind of the centerpiece of this Pike Place Market, but it's a very clever, recurring attraction. This has been going on for 30 years, and it still draws a big crowd every day. I mentioned attention to detail. Notice the terrific neon signs they have there. Notice the freshly painted ceilings. The place is not pristine. It's got a lot of sense of history to it, but it's well maintained and safe, and people feel very comfortable going there with their children and their families. If we can advance to the next slide, this is on a Monday morning. That's the crowd of tourists on a Monday morning, not typically your busiest day for visitors to most destinations. And just pushing your way through the crowds there is pretty impressive when you consider that Saturday is their big day of the week. But notice the attention to detail, notice the lighting, notice the columns they have there that are dressed with the beautiful fenestration on top. Hanging flower baskets everywhere. So something that was at the verge of being torn down has been reinvented, keeping the past but modernizing it, making it clean and safe, and it's an incredible economic engine for that destination. Another must-see is this big pig, and you can see there's a little slot in its back where people can actually drop money. Most people don't even know what they're dropping money for or where the proceeds go, but everybody wants to have their picture taken with this pig. You can see how its surface is rubbed smooth of any corrosion by the constant hands that are placed on its head. Once again, what kind of photo opportunity could we have in this region where everybody who visits wants to make sure they capture themselves standing next to it or their kids sitting on top of it? It's a little thing, but all these little things added up have created a great tourism destination in Seattle. And when I first moved there in 1979, this group would not be caught walking downtown after dark because of the drunks and street people who would accost you. It was a port town. There were drunken sailors wandering around all hours of the day. It's dramatic, the changes that they've achieved by having a single-minded desire to make it a high-volume tourist destination. And then when you go to the exterior of the Pike Place Market, you see it's well maintained. You've got brick streets. You've got, there's a pig up on the roof there, along with flower boxes, lots of sort of retro streetscapes that people can enjoy, but constant strolling, constant buying an ice cream, buying a souvenir, buying a kitchen gadget. There's a wide variety of things that are sold in the surrounding area. And then finally, as you get away from the Pike Place Market, there's been some great retail additions. Columbia Sportswear, we're an outdoor destination, so is Seattle, but we don't have a Columbia Sportswear company with a batten board on the outside of the building. They really live up to their outdoors reputation by having retail that reflects that in the core of their downtown area. The next shot is of a Made in Washington store. The idea here being that not only do you have a store with retail potential, but you have a store that reflects and repeats all the iconic things in the entire state of Washington. They've been doing these for a year. They're very, very successful. Wouldn't it be great if we had a Reno store where you could go in and buy things from the state or tourist items, but once again under the guise of this is a very well-rounded destination for visitors. And here's something I'd never seen before. Carhartt, the popular manufacturer of workwear, now has retail stores. They've gone out, they have apparently, I talked to the manager, they've got about 8 of these nationwide. Why don't we have one in Reno? They have one in Seattle. They've got axe door handles. The entire interior has a very outdoors, alpine theme to it. It would fit in perfectly in our environment here as a four-season destination resort. So once again, even their retail reflects the setting and what they have in their DNA in that part of the country. But all, once again, is not perfect in Seattle. Here's another streetscape right nearby the ones I just showed you. For sale historic building, wigs, smoke shop. We've got a couple of those in our area. But it doesn't make people not want to go to Seattle because the critical mass of all the cool things, the good things, the unique things, the iconic things offsets the fact that they're still a work in progress as well. And I think sometimes we say to ourselves, oh, it's hopeless, what are we going to do about that block's a mess? Well, okay, that block may be a mess, but if the next one over is spectacular or really cool, that's not going to hurt you in the long run. Visitors are flexible if the good stuff far outweighs the bad. So Seattle's got a lot of ugly blocks too, but they're cranking along and they've got very high occupancy this summer for their hotel environment. And then just switching for a moment to the nighttime. Once again, it's all about critical mass. Where we have some cool restaurants and bars, they've got an entire neighborhood full of restaurants and bars, and they've got more than one of them. So there are different zones around downtown that are very active for nightlife. So you've got bars and restaurants, you've got outdoor seating, but the key is they've managed to get multiple operators to be side by side in these neighborhoods. So no matter what your preference is, you can go to different parts of town, but there's a lot of nightlife. And once again, this was after a PCMA dinner I went to down by the waterfront. I walked back to my hotel and shot this. This was a Tuesday night, and you can't really see with the detail there, but those were all hopping places on a Tuesday night at about 10:30 p.m. Next slide. Once again, a lot of outdoor activity, a lot of ambiance. If you look into these places, they're very atmospheric. They make people want to hang out and spend money because they're such a cool environment. And once again, you can look at that building. It's probably could use a paint job, but maybe not, because that kind of grittiness, that kind of authenticity is what makes Seattle so popular. It's not a spit-shined city. It's a place that has a lot of history, and they've well executed it with a lot of creativity in the downtown core. And that's it. So just a little food for thought. It's kind of interesting, because I have a history in Seattle and know what it used to be and know what it is now, that anything's possible if a lot of smart people get together and put their minds to it. So I just wanted to share that with you as kind of a perspective.
Chris,
yes.
If I comment on, I like your thought process there, and I think that's great. And I think downtown and Art Town has done a great thing in creating this month of July. A lot of people coming down and the river and all the restaurants down there are just having a blast with it. If anybody's got a chance to finish out the month of July with Art Town, it is kind of special down there. They've been having a great go at it, and it kind of reminds you of some of the stuff you're talking about.
Absolutely, and festivals like that can expose people to the area and over time build an allegiance. But we really need to be aware of looking at it from the eyes of a first-time visitor, and what can we do to improve some of the streetscapes so that we can start building that momentum and make ourselves a cool city like Seattle is now. Speaking of cool, we did debut our 1951 Willys four-wheel drive station wagon yesterday. Had incredible media turnout. All the TV stations, all the print media, several radio broadcasters were there, and have gotten some great coverage from it. So very positive response. Our special event partners were very enthusiastic as well. The vehicle will be making its first appearance starting next Tuesday at the Reno Tahoe Open, and will be at a lot of the big events for the remainder of this season. We'll also be taking it further afield to trade shows and other events for the media and convention market, and for PR promotion with the media. So relatively inexpensive program, but seems to be off to a good start, and a lot of enthusiasm about the concept of a vehicle that shows all the great things you can do here besides gaming, which is obviously a main theme of what we're doing in our marketing efforts. We also are delighted to be able to show you a brand new advertising execution for the meetings and conventions market. And I will tell you that our new campaign has been getting very, very positive response. I got 4 emails yesterday alone regarding the latest execution, people saying what a fantastic message it has and how effectively it's conveying that message to the meetings market. So, Jennifer, you can just remind people what the first ad was, which was the for sale by owner ad. This has been out now for about 2 months in the media, and it's important to note, besides being all the top magazines, trade magazines for meetings and conventions, this is also appearing electronically. So as our added value with the top 2 magazines, Meetings and Conventions and Successful Meetings, they just did an emailing to their entire database of our new ad campaign, so that literally tens of thousands of meeting planners are not only seeing it in the magazine up front, but also seeing it electronically coming into their offices. And then the next ad that we debuted is the Reno declares its independence. This has gotten a very favorable response. People are saying, you guys are so smart to promote the fact that you have so many independent properties, when today the big brands are driving people crazy with some of the requirements they make based on their computer programs. So very, very positive feedback on that ad as well. And then our newest one we're really proud of is This Is How We Roll. And we took the recent U.S. bowling finals for the women's group and got a great shot of it. And we've got a copy there talking about how we bend over backwards to accommodate the needs of our customers, no matter what they might be. Even the subhead says, we put the yes in Reno, which we haven't used before. We thought was a kind of a cute way of saying, you know, we can make it happen here, and here's proof of it. So we think that's a great high-impact ad as well. These will be in rotation throughout the rest of this year. And I don't know when the last time was somebody, if you're in the hotel industry or in the marketing industry, it's not too often that people contact you and saying, I saw the new ad, I love it, it's brilliant, or whatever. To have multiple people do that as each ad rolls out shows we're on the right track. You know, a lot of people are thinking of it, most people don't do that extra step. But the fact that we're hearing feedback from the industry that, wow, that is a really impactful ad you guys have out there, makes us know that we're making progress on it. So good news on that front, and we will update you as the next ad is finalized and rolls out. On the consumer side of things, I just wanted to quickly show you the current issue of Sacramento Magazine. Just arrived yesterday, and make a point here. We were a little upset when the first time we advertised our new What's Your Passion campaign in this magazine, and we contacted the publication and said, listen, the deal was upfront placement. That's all we take from our partners. If you can't deliver it, we'll go somewhere else. They apologized and said, okay, we're going to upgrade you to 2-page spreads instead of a page and a third, at no additional charge for the rest of your campaign. So here's the current issue, and up front we've got this beautiful 2-page spread with 2 of our properties featured on the outside 1/3. And then because we are a new partner with the Sacramento Magazine Spending a Lot, there's always a separation between editorial and the business side of it. But they're not fools, and they know that if Reno is spending lots of money in their publication, they better make sure that they have editorial content that reflects what this destination's up to as well. So in here, we've got a great article, multi-page, Reno, not just for gambling. Talks about the hot new restaurants, the hot attractions, multiple pages, and a really well-written article with a lot of stuff that maybe is not as high profile for a first-time or a repeat visitor. Things that everybody should know about, but things that maybe only the insider knows about. So a really well-done article, and you know, you can't buy editorial, but you can buy advertising, and that often leads to great editorial as well. So in addition to the publications we sit down with and are doing the editorial discussions with, we've got publications who on their own are stepping it up and supporting us with the content of their magazine and media. So that's great news as well. And then finally, I just wanted to recognize Brian Rivers. We just received word that we got the GFOA Certificate of Achievement and Excellence for our recent audit and annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2011. So plaque is on the way, but Brian, thank you for doing a great job of managing our finances. And that is it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are there any questions for President on this presentation? Mr. Finland. Mr. Hawkins, I'm sorry. Read the wrong tag. That one's in reserve.
I wasn't at the Finance Committee meeting when you guys were approving that Willie's. Just what was the total cost of the Willie's project?
$28,000, which is what we spend on one ad in the in-flight magazine on Southwest in a month.
That's acquisition, the building of it, and
I negotiated a good price on it. Actually, Summit Racing was a wonderful sponsor who donated the equipment that went on the machine.
Great.
And then we got very good prices from the local craftsmen in Reno and Sparks who did the work.
excellent. That's a good price.
Any other questions? Any comments? All right, then I think we generally have a motion to accept the President's report. No? Okay. Then let's move on. Let's move on to items for board consent. First, the Finance Committee. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item is item C on the Finance Committee meeting that was held July 13th, 2012. Representatives from the Reno Air Races made a presentation to the Finance Committee requesting an additional $75,000 to help pay for the costs associated with the insurance for their event. And the Finance Committee, at the recommendation of Mr. Baum, approved to bring to this board a request to provide an additional $75,000 to the Reno Air Races to help defray the costs with the insurance.
Thank you. Is there any, are you setting that out for a separate motion? Is that what you wish, sir? Any?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, let's have discussion on item C, Charlie. Any discussion? Mr. Dorch.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to, just based on the comments that we heard from public comment earlier, you know, originally we did set this up to where they would receive the money once we knew that this was moving forward, but clearly this is a critical event for this community. They came back with a request to us to receive the funding early and make an additional request for additional funding. And I think from my standpoint, it is an important enough event to this community that we cannot afford to lose it. And that was my rationale for taking the action that we took. So just from my standpoint, it wasn't that we misled anyone in the beginning. That was the plan. But as with everything, things can change and they have to come to a public meeting for those to change, and that's what happened. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just an update for this group. I serve as a travel commissioner on the Nevada Commission on Tourism, and just about an hour ago I got off the phone. We had a meeting this morning, and the state has, we have approved the state donating $600,000 in sponsorship dollars to the Reno Air Races. So Our initial 75 plus the additional 75 that we're suggesting approval today allows them to move forward with the event this year. And we believe that it's the right thing to do, and it's great to see that the entire state, Las Vegas included, believes that this is an important event for the state and needs to be perpetuated.
That is positive news. Any other questions? Are there any questions for Mr. Wilburn from the association? Any members have any questions? Mr. Wilburn, wish to give remarks now?
Perhaps after you take the vote.
Well, we sort of have public comment before a vote. Generally, it's considered somewhat more meaningful. No other discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Curtis.
I'd just like to throw in my 2 cents worth that I also agree with Mr. Dortch that this is an important event for Reno. It really is a landmark kind of an event. It represents in a lot of people's minds, I think, the freedom that both flying and an event like this represent. And it's it kind of reflects the Western, the Wild West, you might say, and I think it's important to this region. I also think that special events are very important to this region, and this is a showcase special event that needs to be perpetuated and needs to be supported at this time. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hawkins.
I have a question for Joe. Maybe you know, how many people does that facility hold on a full day of the air races?
I don't know. Maybe Dave knows. I don't know how. And it's all general admission and chalets.
So Mr. David Wilburn from the Reno Air Racing Association will respond.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, CEO Baum, staff. On our busiest day, which would be Saturday, there are approximately 38,000 people on site.
And how many days are there of the air races?
There are 5 days. We quote a gross attendance figure of a little over 200,000, which represents roughly 80,000 unique individuals who visit more than one day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Commissioner Weber.
I'd just like to say we need to support this. I've been able to attend the air races for the last probably 20 years. And it's a great thing for our community. And as we all know, all the people that come, they have great things to say about our community. And it's not just about the air races, it's about what it brings to our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve and a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Go ahead. You're going to stop that. You're going to go to that podium if you wish, and you'll have 3 minutes. Then you'll fill out a card afterwards. You will not make slanderous remarks. You will not make impertinent remarks. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I apologize for speaking from my seat. It's just sort of outrageous. I remind you guys that 10 people died at this event last year. And your own thing says this is not one of the top events. So are you saying that this survey that you guys paid for is wrong? Is it all of this money that we're talking about putting this, what other great events could we bring to this area that don't kill people and put people's lives at risk with all of this money? This is a tremendous amount of money. And the thing is, there's no guarantees that this event's going to be even safer. And what's going to happen, I mean, I've sat through the meetings there with the airport authority, and they're concerned about one of these planes flying directly into those stands with 38,000 people and killing even more people. I mean, I don't see how this is a positive event, and it's just too risky. Your own survey says it's not one of the top events in Reno, so I think it's ludicrous to support giving them any more money. Thank you.
Would you do one thing and state your name for the record? Again.
My name is Matt Manser.
Thank you. And if you could stop to see Charlotte at your convenience to fill out another card. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll close public comment. We have a motion on the floor. Everyone understands the motion, I believe. No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving to item E, review of the operations for the month. Room taxes were up 3.6% from budget, or 2.2% year over year. Actual room nights were up 12,000 over budget, down 2,000 year over year. The rate for the month was down 61 cents from budget, but up $1.58 year over year. Facility revenues increased from budget largely due to the activity at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. The bowling stadium is below budget, and that's primarily due to the USBC women's tournament attendance being below estimates used for the budget. Wild Creek Golf Course is up significantly, again associated with the closure of DeAndrea. Thank you. Operating expenses for the month are $12,000 below budget. Non-operating expenses continue to be significantly below budget, and a big part of that was due to the elimination of the debt payment that was made earlier in the year. Year-to-date, room tax collections are up $205,000 below budget, and $346,000 below on a year-over-year basis. Room nights are 22,000 above budget and slightly below the prior year. The rate for the year-to-date is $1.16 below budget and 48 cents below the prior year. Facility revenues year-to-date are $608,000 above budget, and year-over-year they're $561,000 below budget. The NBS Women's and Open Tournament and the Livestock Events Center continue to be below budget, while all the other facilities are significantly ahead of plan. Expenses for the year, operating expenses continue to be below budget, above budget by $579,000. The big part of that was in promotion and advertising. Non-operating expenses are $1.3 million below budget. Again, that's related to the debt refinance and the prepayment of the interest for the year. Year-to-date margins for the facilities are $320,000 better than budget. Again, the convention center is the biggest gainer there. The Livestock Events Center and the bowling stadium are lagging below budget. Sales and marketing to date are $170,000 higher than budget, again, to higher promotional and advertising expenses. G&A, $6,000 higher than budget. Total operating margins are $62,000 lower than anticipated from the original budget, but are showing signs of improving trends. So in the package are the additional TAP reports and facility details if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions as to item E? Is there any motion? There's a motion and a second to approve the report. Is there any public comment as to item E? Hearing none, we'll close public comment. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. That would take us to the marketing committee items. Mr. Carano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be asking for approval of items 7F, G, H, I, and J. At first, it's okay, I'd like to go out of order a little bit in regards to my reporting. So first I'd like to go to 7H, and that's convention sales report. And we can kind of go through this fairly quickly. The month of May, convention sales was not a stellar month. We netted out 852 rooms booked. Year to date, we're 37% of our goal, or 95,000 room nights, and we're going to hit someplace around 100,000 room nights for the year ending June. I think we're still again suffering from a team that hasn't been together real long, but we are full staffed, and as we're full staffed, we've got some things on the horizon that are actually look forward to some successes. We had some site inspections in the month of May. We participated in industry events, ASE Springtime back in D.C. and HSMA Meet West in Anaheim, and we have a big event in Dallas here, ASAE, coming up in a couple of weeks. John, do you have anything you want to add to convention sales for a report for the month of May?
Thank you, Mr. Carano. Yes, I do. When we talk about our production, one of the things I want to note is that we are also up 48%, or we will finish the year, I should say, up 48% over the prior year. While that's significantly off of our goals, I do want to point out that I think there's some good progress that's being made with a emerging team, and that's really going to hit some traction going into this new fiscal year. So disappointed that we didn't come closer to our goals, but pleased that we're seeing the progress and development over the prior year, and pleased about that. We've got some good verbal tentatives out there that we're looking to close, and so I think we've got some good opportunities here in the very near future. And I think I've been communicating with you about some of the issues that we're having with the government market. We're seeing continued cancellations, which are having a big impact on our production on a net basis, as well as what's coming in that we're used to having a pipeline, and that we'll go over some of that when we talk about the goals.
Thank you, John. And I think what's important here is to understand as a sales team, we do have a direct focus, convention sales with Chris and John, and they now have a team that's been together for a year anyway, with the team back in D.C., team in Chicago, team in Southern California, and our sales staff here. So we're fully staffed at this point. We'll talk about goals here in a few minutes. But any questions in regards to May's convention sales report?
Mr. Chair, if I might pose a question to Mr. Leinen. I'm trying to recall the emails that have been sent out, and many members have responded to them, as to the loss of room nights to the government accounts. Do I understand those losses are this market, Reno, or are they statewide, or are they national?
They're just for this area, this market alone.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so right now we've lost close to 14,000 room nights since January, which is close to about $1.5 million in revenue. And some of that is definite cancellations that we had signed contracts for, and events that were supposed to be operating. They're canceling 4, 5, 6 weeks out. A couple of them were businesses or pieces of business that had committed to coming to the destination, hadn't signed contracts yet, but when they went up to the undersecretary for approval, they were directed to take it to another destination because of perceptions with gaming and a resort destination and the whole GSA scandal. That's the thing that really I'm trying to correct the most, is that we're being penalized for perception issues on business opportunities. The cancellations are starting to occur in other destinations, but you know we're also not getting the looks that we used to have, and I fear that it's due to perception issues.
Are those 14,000 room nights, is that 100% federal government? Yes, they're a combination of military, Department of, the Army. We've seen some Coast Guard, some Navy, but then there's also Department of Labor, Justice Department. So it's a across the board. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, specific experiences. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Curtis.
I just want to express the fact that I am extremely upset with this report. From the standpoint that we discussed whether the goals were realistic some time ago. And I remember specifically stating that I wanted to know when we thought we were going to have to adjust. From a financial standpoint, I don't know what this does to us, but we were 37% at the end of the year. So we better have a magic maker over here on the side, and I think we do, fortunately. I think this calls attention to the fact that we have to consider our focus. I'm very anxious to hear about the marketing challenges and goals that are going to be discussed here shortly. But this should have been factored in long before now. And if we wind up a year from now making 37% of our goal, that would be bad.
Any other questions, comments at this point before Mr. Carano continues? Go ahead, sir.
Just one further comment. I can tell you in regards to Civil AC, we had a piece of business that left us and went to another city in Arizona and ended up paying something like $229 per room night. So I mean, and we had that documented. So there's clearly an issue in regards to the government and military and so forth coming to being encouraged to go someplace else. So that's something we ought to figure out. At any rate,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Can I ask?
Commissioner Weber.
Thank you. I apologize for just kind of interrupting, but back to the government services and those organizations. When they are not coming to us, are they going someplace else? Or are they just not going anywhere?
It's a combination of those two. They're canceling their meetings and not going elsewhere, or they were looking at us and giving consideration and taking their business to other destinations. So it's a mix of that.
Well, could we get those figures? I think that would be helpful, because if they're not going anywhere, there's nothing we can do about it. If they're going someplace else, then I think that's what we need to be looking at. But I'm concerned about, I don't think anybody would have known that this was going to be the reaction. So I'm concerned, Mr. Curtis, with your comments, because I don't think anybody knew that this was going to come about. I know
that doesn't account for the number.
Well, okay, thank you.
Anyone else while we're at this departure? Okay, go ahead, sir.
In regards to comment, in regards to Mr. Curtis, and we have a sales and marketing committee meeting, and we express our dissatisfaction in these kind of room night bookings for 852 is it's a number that you just don't see unless there's a big cancellation. That's a net, and I'm not sure, John, you probably had some cancellations in that number, but at the end of the day, we're not satisfied as a committee. We're not satisfied with that number, and we have to, that's why we have Chris Baum as the CEO here, and John to keep the pedal down on all of our sales team, including the ones in D.C. and Chicago and Southern California, and our sales team that's representing us for us in the Midwest and Chicago in Texas. And we'll talk about sales goals here in a minute. We have to put up, and I would say the CEO prior to Chris, we cut our staff, and that'll be a discussion too going forward in the sales and marketing committee, and whether we're staffed appropriately. I think, when you cut a staff member or you cut we were at one time, and I'm not sure you can make that presentation in regards to goals, but we were at one time, we had 11 salespeople, and we went down to
actually
as
12.
as low as 5 or 6, because this organization decided to cut budget. And as we cut budget, we cut salespeople, and salespeople are revenue generating people. And so now we're building back up, and as we're building back up, it's up to Chris Baum and John to make sure they have the right people in the right, and that they're producing. And so I appreciate you stepping out and jumping in. And but convention sales is in my opinion, is the #1 thing that we could do to make an impact in this community.
Thank you. Commissioner or Member Curtis.
I'm delighted that we're up 48% from last year. I think that's significant, and I think it definitely bodes well for the future. I'm not happy with the projections that we had and the fact that those were not adjusted earlier. Those should have been adjusted earlier. And the reason is because it's going to impact the finances. That means we're going to have to cut staff again or something else. So if there is a recognition that we're not going to make the goal, we need to know that sooner rather than later, and we need to take it into account. Now, maybe staff already recognizes this, takes it into account, and understands it. I hope so. But we don't. Because here it is right now. End of May, 37%. That's my concern.
Councilman George.
Yeah, thank you. And Paul, I certainly appreciate what you're saying. And to be honest, I'm not happy we're up 48% because that tells us how bad the year was before, because those numbers that we're seeing are not good. But I think from a budget standpoint, and Brian can chime in here, but Brian, when he puts the budget together, I think he's looking at business that's already on the books for the coming year. Correct, Brian?
Yeah, I was going to ask if I could respond to that. We look 12 months out, essentially, in the comparison of what we had versus what we've added on. What John is looking at is more in a 3 to 5 year out. So we won't see an immediate impact to our 12-13 budget, but clearly as we get farther out, we're going to see more difficulty in, if we were at X number of room nights and we're only hitting Y for goals, we're going to see a gap begin to create itself out in 15, say, and beyond at this point.
And clearly, like I said, I mean, these numbers are not what we expected, but I don't think they're a surprise. I don't think come the end of May, when we get this report, it's a surprise, because we've seen the trend all year, and we've been talking about it at the Sales and Marketing Committee all year. I mean, we know the numbers were bad, and I mean, so it's not, I don't think it was a surprise to staff. It wasn't a surprise to us. I mean, we knew the number. We knew we weren't going to get anywhere near goal. So it's not like this is to us now, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. We've known this all along. I mean, we've known it for months. I mean, so I don't think it was a shock. It's a disappointment clearly, but it's not all of a sudden it's a surprise to us. I mean, we get the reports every month. So.
Should we press onward?
Okay, I really do appreciate the spirit of dialogue here, by the way. And one further thing is, as Brian chimed in and talked about the monthly budget going forward and so forth, future bookings are coming in closer and closer, so that next year hopefully we'll have more in the year bookings, and that's been a big focus and actually a big trend in the industry. There's more. People just aren't booking the big stuff years out in advance. I should say the big stuff is being booked out years in advance, but there's a lot more meetings in the year for the year. Okay.
And if I may, just one final comment. It's important for this group to realize that although we represent a large portion of the business that comes to this destination, we've got great sales teams at our individual properties as well. So the Rscva generates about 40% in round numbers of the group business here. The hotel sales teams cumulatively do the other 60% with their efforts. So the revenues are a result of everyone working together and individually to impact the marketplace.
Thank you. I too enjoy the spirit of the conversation, and nobody is more disappointed in these results than me. I assure you of that. I also assure you that we have one hell of a sales team out there fighting daily to try to drive these results. and I will put this team up against any bureau, hotel, national sales, corporate sales, any day. You know, we're trying hard. We need better results. You can't get a better fight than what's happening right now. You go talk to these salespeople and you ask them what they're doing, and you look at the quality of the work that's being done, it's out there. Getting these results takes time. And the best thing we have going for us right now is an incredible marketing support right here. The best thing that we have going for ourselves is the resources that we're putting forth to try to change what's going on. It's not easy. And when you walk into an organization, into a place and into a trade show and they know nothing about our destination, it takes time to build that. Our sales process is a long sales process. Our goals were not allocated properly. I think what we're proposing will be the right goal. It's still a huge stretch, but we need to push, and the push is happening. You know, if you talk to the property salespeople, I think they will tell you we've got a quality experience going on out there. And I fight for this team. They do a great job for us. Not delivering the results yet, but you can't dispute the fight that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to say one more thing.
Go ahead, sir.
You know, yeah, I know the world is tough, and, you know, salespeople particularly have to work harder than they ever have for less results than they've ever gotten. And I know that. But moving forward, after seeing numbers like this, we should be very conservative spending money going forward. I'd just like to say that.
Amen. Any other questions or comments at this time? Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move on to 7I Tourism Report, and this will be a brief report. And John, I'll let you chime in. We still don't have the numbers in your, and we're going to actually discontinue producing these numbers for your book until we get real numbers to look at. John Lyon and staff do not have a complete baseline to work off of in regards to producing numbers from, because not all the hotels are reporting, and so we're going to try to get the hotels to report. The tourism department, they did do some positive things for the month of May. By the way, May is a long time ago. They went to the Southwest Airlines retreat down in Anaheim, which is a big event, and then just this past month, or just a couple weeks ago, I should say, they hosted the biggest little C golf tournament for its clients. So the tourism department staff of how many members do we have in staff there? 2, John?
Yes, we have 2.
Yeah, they're active out there in the golf and ski industry, but the numbers that you're looking at won't be in the book next month unless we can get some good numbers in there. John, do you have any comment for tourism report?
I do. We struggle greatly in getting the hotel support to buy into the reporting process that would allow us to have accurate numbers, as well as to establish goals, as well as to provide benchmark reporting back to the properties. It's really hugely disappointing that we can't get our hotels to support the program that they had committed to back in October. So we struggle with it. I'm going to try another tactic here to try to get support from the ownership down, but we're not getting cooperation to change how we report our processes. And so everything that we have been reporting before, we've learned that it really wasn't on a foundation of accuracy and reality. And when we try to create a new system to do that, we're not getting the buy-in, but we'll continue to endeavor to try to make that happen.
Mr. Hawkins.
Is there a plan B to get the numbers, the reported numbers, somehow, if the properties aren't cooperating? It's been long enough. Is there another
Mr. Hawkins,
plan?
I am open to thoughts on what Plan B is, because Plan A, which was what we originally did not have a foundation of accuracy, and Plan B to create that accuracy isn't working. Plan C is to get the ownership support. After that, I'm stymied right now, to be honest with you.
Is
Aren't the
it's not a contract. The way tourism sales reports, there's no contracts. There's no client signature on a piece of paper that says this is going to happen. It's really about individual transients coming in for leisure business that we don't necessarily control. Our ability to try to drive those markets is really being aware, being visible in the different ski shows, golf shows, out there with the tour and travel market, and trying to build relationships. But the production is at the hotel side of things, and there's no individual contracts for that. We rely on their reporting, and if we don't get the reporting, I don't know what else to do right now.
Councilman George.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just so you know, I mean, I made the suggestion that we stop reporting these numbers to the marketing committee because they don't mean anything. They really, they do nothing for us. So it was my recommendation that we stop getting the reports the way they are, but update us on the activity that's going on, what you're doing as far as to help create the tourism market. But really the numbers were, I mean, they don't mean a thing to us, and to have any discussion about these numbers is silly. So that's why I've asked to pull that off of there, Jerry.
And it was said, Mr. Chairman, it was said at the market committee meeting that analysis paralysis, you know, the sales team underneath John has to go forward and be active, whether the numbers are being produced or not. And they're nice to have so that John can actually evaluate his sales team and evaluate and set goals for his sales team. But absent of those numbers isn't going to stop his sales team from doing their job. And so they need to, you know, at least, you know, John can take a look at the numbers and figure out how to get those numbers, but in regards to the sales team and the two salespeople involved, they need to be active out there, and that's the activity that we need to continue to build and report on. All right?
Yeah, and my thought was also to spend any time putting these reports together is a waste. I mean, for staff to be spending time to put that report together to bring it to us when it means nothing, in my opinion, was silly.
Well, I think meaning nothing is subjective because it might tell us an area that we can improve in if we have some kind of an indication of what that segment's doing. Right? I mean, I agree that it all goes to the same pot, but maybe it would indicate how to improve. I'm not saying to spend a whole lot of time and money and effort to get that number.
But the numbers aren't accurate. We don't know what the real numbers are.
Right.
So to me, they were irrelevant.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to comment. I mean, Plan C is to report on the numbers cumulatively for those properties they're reporting and do an apples-to-apples comparison of growth of those numbers for the X number of hotels who do provide the accurate numbers. So it'd be a shame to not have all the major properties represented, but it is possible for us to move forward at some point if we say, you know, these guys aren't going to give us the numbers, so we'll go with the properties that do give us the numbers. I just would hate to go to that if we can avoid it.
Well, and perhaps that combined with some of the property representation here at this board with jawboning, perhaps that will help. You know, perhaps one property executive to another can be more persuasive than, you know, a bureaucrat like me. Mr. Curtis.
It's all, the problem of the numbers is a problem, but it's almost like anecdotal results are almost as important, and those I think are probably more achievable. And even if we can't get the precise number, we ought to be able to feel if things are improving or getting worse from that perspective. And I think that that's, from my point of view, what we should be looking for is generally are things getting better or generally are things getting worse. If they're getting better, I think that's good, and we need to focus more on that.
Anyone else? All right, please continue.
Okay, thank you very much again. 7J marketing report. Property referrals and unique visitors to our website were above goal for the month of May, and year to date they are over or close to goal. Email signups are 57% of the goal. A monthly convention and meeting RFPs had a good month of 180% of goal. And Facebook has been above goal due to specific ad campaigns that we've been running from March through June. Our Bay Area marketing campaign is still in full tilt with the radio, billboards, print, and press releases. And What's Your Passion is alive and well. The marketing numbers are pretty positive, as you'll see in the report. And then I'm going to have Jennifer in a second go ahead and give you kind of an update on our Northern California co-op advertising campaign. Any questions in regards to marketing report? Then just one other thing in regards to marketing special event schedule was introduced, and I bring that up because it seems like everybody's always interested in special events. So our special event schedule for this year's applications are due October 30th. The panel will then meet the special event panel, and it's a panel, anonymous panel that no one knows who anybody is on there. And that meets in November, and recommendations will be presented to the Sales and Marketing Committee and the board January of 2013. With that, we also had one other thing in the Sales and Marketing Committee in marketing report, and it was Jennifer spoke to the Moorhead Traveler, so I'd like to have her speak to the Moorhead Traveler program there, which is pretty neat.
Absolutely. We had a visiting journalist and photographer from Motorhead Traveler located in Toronto, Canada, and they spent a week with us and pulled together a TV show episode that we'll be filming towards the end of summer, not only in Canada but nationwide in the United States, promoting off-road racing in the Reno area, street vibrations, hot August nights. They rode on the V&T train, and they also rode on up at Lake Tahoe on they went to the Thunderbird Lodge and had a lunch segment on Lake Tahoe. So they covered the destination. It's a 25-minute episode that we'll be running. And we just the morning of the Marketing and Sales Committee meeting on Friday the 13th of July, we had just gotten the initial kind of raw footage or unfinished episode. And so I showed the committee the first like 3 minutes of this TV show, and really they did a phenomenal job showcasing our destination. So when that's out, I'll be happy to share it with the board, and I'll let you know when it's airing. But it was a wonderful week with these journalists talking all about our area. We're excited to see that.
Excuse me. So that's the Moorhead Traveler, and look forward to seeing that come out. And then another update, and I'd like to have if Jennifer just speak to this, was the Bay Area Co-op marketing campaign. And we received a presentation for the first half of the year and an overview for the second half. So Jennifer, you can just briefly touch on that. That'd be great.
Sure. XL Media did a presentation, and just to remind you, they do all of our media buying. They do a phenomenal job, and what we were able to gain for the first 6 months, we ran 15 weeks of radio and 15 weeks of billboards, and then that was supplemented by March through June with Via Magazine, Sunset, Southwest Spirit, In Flight, Sacramento, and San Francisco Magazine. So we had tremendous coverage in Northern California. We spent a little over $1 million in media buy, and we received an additional 46% added value, so in excess of $1.5 million is what XL Media was able to negotiate on our behalf. We had 6 partners that participated on a co-op basis, and each of them received 78% additional value for the money that they put in. and specifically measuring website visits from the Bay Area to use as a barometer, are we getting through, and how is that impacting our website? It's one way that we can measure. And our traffic was up 41% from the Bay Area alone, 25% nationally, 41% over in the Bay Area. So I think that we can feel very comfortable. That's a strong indicator that the campaign is reaching and the people are responding to it. So it was a great presentation, just talking about what we have been buying, and we had some great presentation and slides on the actual billboards that are showing. And then they quickly presented the second half of the year, what our plans are. Thank you.
Any comments regards to our co-op advertising campaign in Northern California? I think the Department of the Atlantis are still running their big billboard campaign down there. So again, Reno and the Reno Tower is very well alive and well in Northern California.
Just 41% increase is absolutely, I mean, phenomenal. It's a great word for that. I mean, I don't think, you rarely see that kind of an increase, so keep up the great work.
Thank you. And just so you know, almost daily we're looking at Google Analytics, and we're seeing what ads, even on our website, are working, what banner ads, and we change out, we monitor and measure. If we have on What's Your Passion campaign, you'll recall there's a picture of an older couple and a picture of a blonde-haired girl and a picture of two guys, and we monitor in what utilization, what photographs are working, and we change them out, and we're always trying to maximize our efforts. So thank you.
So as you see, there's marketing that's going on that's hopefully convention sales going to benefit from a lot of this stuff. We've gone on, we've committed $1 million to ASAE over the next 3 years. We had the Bowling Proprietors Association of America just in town, and as they were in town, they produced the United States Women's Open Bowling Tournament. It just hot off the press. I think they got $7.4 million in ad equivalencies with press releases and articles, New York Times and LA Times and across the country. And then that's without the ESPN show that's been aired. So I think we're doing some real positive things. The off-road racing that we're going to have. We already had one over the July 5, 6, 7 time period, and we've got another one end of July. Lucas Oil's having a off-road race east of town, and that'll be on NBC and NBC affiliates.
Actually, end of August.
Yeah, end of August. I'm sorry. What did I say? July? Excuse me. But at any rate, and so that'll be on TV, Lucas Oil, off-road racing, and so we're doing some real positive things here, and you know, Chris has came on and decided to finally go ahead and put a message out to the convention people. So now we need to, you know, have that sales team drive the efforts forward and get some fruits of our wares here. So with that. I took this out of order, so now we can start getting to the goals. So because you've heard where we're at now, so now where we're going. 7G. This first, I'd like to speak to marketing goals. Overall, you know, as you've heard, we are looking for continued growth of 5% in our marketing goals. Year to date, so far, property referrals are 113% through the month of May, so 5% seems reasonable. Unique visitation is 98% of goal, so again, 5% shouldn't be too much out of a reach. Emails is only 78% of the goal, so we need to target that. And convention RFPs is 100% of goal, so again, to stretch to continue growth there would be great. Facebook continues to grow leaps and bounds, and that was really off a campaign that we've been running since March. And again, Flickr is. So Jennifer, would you like to speak to marketing goals at all?
If you'd like me to be specific, I'm happy to, but we discussed that at the Marketing and Sales Committee. I'm if you're
Just-
comfortable. It's between 5 and 11%, depending on what part of the social media website we're measuring. In addition to that, I did touch on, we want to host 25 journalists to our area. Let's see, and write a minimum of 4 press releases a month. So we talked about PR goals. Mr. Baum and our communications manager are planning a media desk side visit to New York City as well as Los Angeles. That's underway. And the last part of that is we're working hard to get some advertorial and editorial support in well-known tourist and travel publications, and mostly the ones we're advertising in via magazine, Sunset Magazine, but also some of the well-respected newspapers, the USA Today, Chronicle, San Francisco Times, New York Times, Washington Post. So we are really putting a concerted effort on getting editorial out on that. And then last of all, the special events goals really addresses that we are going to continue the relationship with our special events that we introduced last year in the sponsorship, and leveraging the sponsorship dollars into methods that help to further our branding and getting the marketing message out for the Rscva Reno Tahoe area. That sums it up quickly.
Any questions, any additions, any committee members want to speak to marketing goals by any chance? Anybody? All right, moving on to 7F is convention sales goals, and we've touched on this briefly a minute ago, but in the sales marketing committee meeting, in your booklet there and in your file, you'll see a pretty good presentation on history, on where the flights coming to Reno have gone over the past years. Where we're losing convention room nights and in government bookings. In the end of the day, we've made a pretty good. And John, do you want to do a presentation here then? Would you like to show everybody?
If you don't mind, because there's some very important things I want to share.
Okay.
First place I want to kind of start is it's in your packet here, but I really want to point out a number of things here. If you look over here, and this is what Mr. Baum and Mr. Carano were referencing before in some of our historical staffing and the impact on the production. But if you look at back into 2004, 5, all the way through 8, 9, we had anywhere from 10 to 12 salespeople on staff. If you take a look at what the goals were per person, the goals were allocated somewhere around 35,000 room nights per person back then. If you look at what the production results were, the net production was somewhere in the range of 305,000, 310,000 room nights. The average room nights booked range between 25,000 to 32,000 per person. That's a historical representation when the economy was strong and when the world was significantly different. Okay, so now we start to see some of the trends that happen from an economic standpoint, where our staffing has dropped down to 7, 6 folks. Some of this was unfilled positions versus what was budgeted, but nonetheless, this is what the staffing production was. The average room night goals jumped to close to 47,000, 40,000 per person. So when you look at the 285.6 that we've been carrying for the last 2 years, it's not supported necessarily based on historical goals, and it certainly isn't supported based on what the average room night per person had been. So that's one of the reasons why we're proposing a 228,000 room night goal. Here's the other very significant thing that we need to realize, and this is because our goals and our production are always kind of looking at it from a historical basis. What we've been claiming before is business that was really centered around repeat multi-year deals. That's organizations like Jam On It, great business. Northern California Volleyball, great business for us. Safari, certainly we know, is tremendous business. But we were taking some of these opportunities and we were booking them 5, 6 years out in a single year's worth of production. We have not had the opportunity to realize that production these last 2 years because they've been booked out through 15, 16, 17. And we're not going to realize those repeat business in this fiscal year as well. So this shows up over here. If you look at the production that has generated, going back into this year, we had 67,000, then we jump up to 125,000 room nights, then we drop down to 7,500 and 9,000 room nights from repeats that we did not realize. Does everybody understand how that works and what that's all about? So if you look at the net basis, if you factor out that, the production's been really around 241,000, 207, down to 105, and you can see where we dropped down to 60, and then now we're coming back up to 93,000. Our impact this year from that same similar type of business was 9,000 room nights. We used to be around 125,000. This coming fiscal year, my projections are that we'll probably see around 35,000 room nights in being able to book similar business that we've had claimed in the years prior. I don't think it's in our best interest to take business like volleyball and take production credit 5, 6 years out. We've changed that policy and we're going to roll it over, take 2 years, and then as it rolls into next year, take the next year worth of credit. There's too much risk by taking some of this business and putting it on the books 5 years. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I wanted to show another impact on government business. This is what we were contracting back in 7, 8. We were contracting close to 45, 46,000 room nights in government-related business. Remember 9, 10, this is when President Obama started bashing on Las Vegas, and you could see the impact and how that started to drop down. Now the GSA scandal kicks in, we booked 19 leads and 13,000 room nights this year. So you could start to see how that has a significant impact on production. We also, Mr. Carano was talking about time in position. We are carrying right now, in years past, about months worth of experience. We used to have close to 480 months of experience on our staff. Right now, I'm going into this fiscal year with 282 months of experience. And of that 282, one manager has over 100 of those months. So you can see how young our staff is in terms of selling the destination, understanding our product, creating those relationships out in the market that make an impact. The good news is we're going into it with a more stable staff going into this new fiscal year, and we will see the benefits of that. So those are the major things that we focused on. This is a little hard to see, but I also wanted to kind of show competitively what other destinations are doing, and the proposed goal of the 228,000 that was approved by the Sales and Marketing Committee is very much in line with other destinations with similar amount of square footage and hotel rooms, might be even a little bit higher. But the thing that's really important to look at is we know one of our biggest issues is airlift, and you look at our average daily flights, we're looking at 120. One of our biggest competitors, Salt Lake City, has 625 daily flights. Portland, our other biggest competitor, has 450 daily flights. So when we're up against these cities, this is one of our biggest obstacles that we need to fight, and it's a factor. It's not anything I'm going to use as a crutch. It's just something that we need to realize that we are challenged in that particular area. The other thing that we're challenged by is, in some regards, is the number 2 thing that meeting planners look at is committable guest rooms within walking distance of the convention center. We have great shuttle package. It's an easy market. We position that it's a 10-minute city, and we work really hard, and I think we can overcome some of that. But at our ASAE focus group, the 7 folks that are at that focus group, shuttle was one of their biggest concerns. So those are the things that we looked at as we submitted the goals of 228,000. That's an aggressive goal. I will tell you, we've got a big challenge to get to that number, but it's the number that I think is important for this destination to move itself forward. It's a number that is a starting point, if you will, to be able to better leverage all of the marketing efforts and to grow from there, because we need that number to be much bigger than that. But we've got the players in place to go and make that number happen. But it's a big number.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just make one additional comment. We're being real on this, and I think that one of the things that this board deserves and everybody deserves is to work in the real world. We could make bigger numbers if we took something 5 years out instead of 2, but I don't think that's real. And I don't want to delve in the past, but I think some of the numbers in the past had a little bit of numerical manipulation going on, or they were saying, well, we got this great customer, let's take them this year because we really need the room nights, and it inflates the whole numbers. I don't think we want to work in that way going forward. So this is the first budget that John and I have done together. This is the first sales goal. We're serious about it. Nobody wants it to be successful more than we do, but we also have salespeople who have to have a goal that's attainable in the real world, and we do present this as something that meets those criteria.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments on my side is, one, I really do appreciate them doing a 228,000, come up with that number, and as we come up with that number, to decrease it, these numbers actually have to fit into our 5-year plan somehow to make sure that we hit our 5-year plan goals and revenue. Certain things that happen in this community, whether it's the civil agencies issue or whether it's the turnover at the Grand Sierra. As more of these stabilize, the better we'll do as a community and commit to sales also. But I think I think staff, I think Chris Baum, I think everybody understands the biggest impact we could have in this community is landing convention business. It helps us all. It creates critical mass. It helps hotels, restaurants, everything. So with that, it was again a spirited conversation going through the goals and great presentation. We're actually proposing their goals go down from someplace around 285,000 this year down to 228. Any comments? Any questions?
Councilman Dorch.
Yeah, and just so everyone's aware, the discussion at the marketing committee centered around are these goals too high? I don't think any of us wanted to lower them any lower than this. I think that was about as low as we were willing to go, but in the same token, I think right now you've got about 350,000 room nights potential in the hopper, and your conversion rate's about 25%, and it takes about 9 months to convert. So if you look at it in that sense, they really need about 1 million room nights potential in the hopper to meet these goals. So there's great concern that these goals were potentially too high, but none of us, I think, felt we could go lower than this. And staff was adamant that they didn't want to go lower than this. But there's still some concern for this year to meet these goals, and I just want that to be clear. And I know, Paul, that's an issue with you, so just to get that out on the table.
Ms. Cooney?
It just gives me heartburn to reduce goals overall, but I think the thought process that went into this was obviously very complete, and I think these are aggressive goals for the salespeople. They're going to have to really work to achieve them, and let's hope they achieve them, and then we can start raising them back up to where they should be. So that's really where it is. So get to work. Thank you.
Commissioner Weber.
Thank you. I don't know how this relates, but I wanted to ask about the airport and the number of flights. How do we work with the airport? And I know we do, but I just need to hear it again. How do we work with them to get more flights?
Well, if
for
I may,
convention sales,
yeah.
I go to conventions and I see that I just got back from Pittsburgh. But great city, by the way, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Didn't used to be a great city, and it is now. They've done a good job.
It's one of the most
Yeah.
livable cities now.
Yeah.
So most people don't know that. But the point is that flights are what bring conventions in. And that was a problem for us with the National Association of Counties. We couldn't get people in. And I don't know that it's so much about the nonstop any longer. I think it's about getting them in here.
Right. Well, unfortunately, in the good old days, airlines felt a sense of responsibility to markets they'd invested in, and often would give people a shot at something based upon a good presentation and the relationship. Today, it's all about numbers. I was just on business in Las Vegas, and business people's travel changes. But Southwest now is running 100% load factor on all those flights, and if you have a change in your plans, you're going to sit at the airport for 5 hours because they don't run more flights at 85% load factor like they used to give people flexibility. It's not about consumer convenience. It's not about working with good partners we've known for years. It's about where can we squeeze the most revenue per mile out of that aircraft. And so as much as I'd like to say that we could put together a really good presentation and go to the major carriers and get them to come here with more flights and more service, it doesn't work that way anymore. What we have to do is create more demand for the destination. Then the airlines who want to make more money are going to say, we're going to add more service to it. And that's what happens. Southwest is adding some service this year because they see the potential to make more money, not because we asked them nicely. And we've got, I believe, very good relationships through the airport with the major carriers. But you got to prove the demand is there and do it over a consistent period of time. So I do believe that the correct approach to take is, and the airport seems to be on board with this, is that you create more demand and the airlines will respond. And that's kind of the approach we're taking.
Mr. Hull.
I would kind of tend to echo what Chris just said. The airport has an air service committee, and the air service committee is focused with staff on building relationships with the airlines, and they go to great lengths to make sure that the relationships have been established and that they're maintained. There have been occasions when we've had large convention activities here in the community where an airline has actually put on additional service, and I think Safari is a specific example of that. But it's a chicken and egg thing, and the staff has told us during reports that they give to the board on a regular basis that there was a time when the airlines felt compelled to provide service to a community. That's no longer the case. When you go in and make a presentation about all of the great things that are happening in Reno, the airline will listen politely, but they get to the bottom line and they say, well, what kind of business are we going to get if we bring additional service in? And so, you know, we've seen service drop to San Jose by Southwest as an example. That was a great level of service that we've had for years and years, but the service, the use was just not there. And so they finally said, we're going to drop that service. And that's a service that I've used over the years probably 3 or 4 times a year. Inexpensive, very, very convenient. And now we're using Alaska. You know, so the airport does do, I think, a very good job of trying to maintain those relationships. And that's the basis that the strategy that the airport has used in trying to create those relationships, maintain the relationships. And when we see opportunities, particularly as the team here begins to book additional business, or if the properties book additional business, they need to let the airport know, because then that information can be given to the airlines.
Mr. Chairman, can I just?
Yes.
I agree with what you're saying, but there's got to be some more conversation, because I know the cost of flights have gone up because of fuel, but for $215 or whatever it is now to do a round trip to Las Vegas is outrageous, even to go to meetings or what have you. So, and I know that we don't have control over that, but the other part of that is definitely, you know, it's online now that, you know, how can we avoid a cost of $215 for a round trip? Even if you try to do a ding special for Southwest Airlines, they're not even including Reno in that market. So there aren't really specials for that. And so I'm just saying there's got to be some conversation, it seems to me, with someone. I mean, we advertise in the Southwest magazine, and I know it's great advertisement. I sit and I see people sharing and going, oh, look at this. It's pretty cool when somebody says that. But it just seems to me that there's got to be some either conversation on a one-on-one with the Rscva and the airlines, or the airport and the airlines. But and I'm hoping that we're doing that, and it looks like we have somebody that will be adding on to service.
Let's have some conversation from Mr. Flynn.
I hear the question a lot about why don't we increase air service into Reno, and to Mr. Baum's point, show us the demand and we'll give you the service. Then on the flip side, I think speaking from a hotel perspective, you try to persuade a lot of these groups to book Reno, and they say, well, unfortunately, until you have the lift, we're going to choose a different destination. So it's, regardless of how you look at it, it's a challenge either way. You know, we can't add additional service until we create demand, and then we as a destination and as a group of hotels try to create that demand. They won't book Reno because they have better lift elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Crono.
Mr. Chairman, a couple things. Number one, Bonnie, you asked what we're doing. Chris, Mr. Baum actually has joined the Regional Marketing Committee member as the representative from the Rscva, and that number one, that's a positive, because that whole thing about the Regional Marketing Committee is about air service, and so as he's a part of that, he'll have more input there and help with that. Number two, with Joe going out and booking United States Bowling Congress all the way to 2030, next year we're going to have someplace close to 100,000, 90,000, 100,000 bowlers come to this community from March through June. That type of booked business over and above anything else we're doing is going to encourage airlines to add more lift. And Southwest Airlines, from my understanding, is already looking at cities that maybe the chair or the CEO here came from recently. But you know, we're looking, Southwest Airlines looking at adding flights. So, you know, it's the chicken and the egg theory. You know, is it the egg before the chicken, chicken before the egg? At the end of the day, it's book business, and the bowlers are a big piece of that, and getting that message out loud and clear. This spending $1 million at the ASAE is a commitment that we're shouting to the airlines too, that we're doing everything we can to drive the business. So I think we're doing some positive things. Mr. Chairman, if there's, okay.
I see no other comment. Are we, Mr. Curtis?
Yeah, just to comment on the goals. I hear what you're saying, and I believe you. I believe that if they are realistic, you're going to tell us. And so, and I also believe that you have one of the hardest working sales teams going. And I think you're doing a yeoman's job to try and go ahead and do everything you can. These are the goals. I'm happy with them. And keep us posted, please. But I'd also like to, Mr. Carano, you made a comment that clearly convention sales are where we have our greatest opportunity for growth. And I guess I just don't know that. I'd like, and probably now's not the right time, but I would like to understand that a little bit better, why you think that, where you think why other opportunities may not provide the same return on our investment. And I'd like to understand from an ROI perspective, what is expected relative to convention sales and a return on our investment. And again, I don't think that this now is the right time, but perhaps we can have a discussion about those things at some point along the line, why that's a foregone conclusion among this group, because I frankly just don't understand it.
Mr. Chairman, I won't make a comment to that because he wanted to talk about it at some other future date, so we'll talk about it at some other future date. With that, is there anything else in regards to goals? Anything? If not, I'd ask that you accept my report on 7F, G, H, I, and J.
Move to approve.
There's a motion and second. We've had a lot of discussion. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing no public comment, any further discussion on the motion as to the 5 separate items? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. That would take us to items K and L. Governance Committee. Ms. Cooney has agreed to present a report. Ma'am.
Okay, we'll try to make this brief. We had a very spirited discussion at our first governmental affairs, or whatever it's called. What is it called? Governance Committee, about what we should take on as a group. There are clearly some processes and things that need to be reviewed that we've had issues with over the last year. And what we attempted to do, and is in your packet, and I can quickly run down this, is to put together a list of things that we would like to look at. Not necessarily change, but to look at. And put some parameters too. There is a list of 14 items, very aggressive from a group standpoint, but we are endeavoring to look at these items. First one is accountability for staff and CEO, setting goals, what's the consequences, that sort of thing. A review of the structure for the performance of senior management. Review of agency goal setting, timing, what we need to be looking at, strategic plan direction. Under that would be the SWOT analysis. Legislative design, we're going into legislative year. How do we attack and manage those issues? Evaluate our return on investment and product mix with regards to convention sales, marketing, and special events, kind of going to what Mr. Curtis had just asked about. That's one of those things that we'll be talking about in that area. Reviewing outsourcing contracts. What is the process? Which contracts should be come to the board and what shouldn't? For example, we had that issue with the recently with the law firms. Agency branding, image control, evaluating assets and facilities, reporting. This kind of gets into what the board needs to know and versus what's nice to know. What communication is expected from the board and vice versa for staff, company policies and procedures, and board training. So quite a list. Does anyone have any comments or thoughts on any additional, or those of you who were there would like to look at? Okay, so that is our very weighty task, and we are going to be meeting again on August 8th. I'm not sure why there's 2 agenda items on this, but just that's pretty much it.
I think those agenda items got
they're kind of one.
They became one at the committee, so. And this is more of a report back to the board, not necessarily need action except maybe to accept the report.
Okay. So with that,
Make a motion to accept the report.
There we go.
There's a motion and a second to accept the report as to K and L. Is there any discussion at this time? Any questions of any of the governance committee members? There's a lot of them here.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of us, and the list, I mentioned them, but I know the list is kind of next on the agenda. But anybody have any other further comments, please forward them to me. I'm helping run the chairmanship while Sharon is out on medical leave for a little while. So.
All right. Hearing no questions or discussion, is there any public comment on these items at this time? Seeing no public comment, let us return to the motion. We've heard the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. That would take us to Mr. Kelly, I believe. Item M.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have before you a staff report requesting that the Board of Directors authorize the CEO to extend our agreement with Delaware North Corporation at all 4 of our facilities to continue operating the food service. for the next 3 months while we solicit or go out with an RFP for, it might be Delaware North again, but go out on the open market to see what sort of commissions and what sort of food service product we can attract. Just a bit of history. We brought Delaware North, or as most people refer to them as sports service, into the bowling stadium and event center first. They're the only firm that's ever been in the event center and operated the stadium. About a year later, we brought them into our convention center and livestock event center. That was through a competitive bid process, as was the bowling stadium and event center. We extended the contract in July to expire at the end of July, in July 1st, 2009 to expire at the end of this month in 2012. Quite honestly, we started the negotiations 6 months ago, and for the first 3 months, we were kind of led to believe that Delaware North would be was amenable to basically extending the contract at the existing commission structure. They've done a very good job for us. We have our biggest challenge within our operation is the business at the convention center. It's not where I don't think any of us would like it, but then at times we have spikes. Safari, where we need a great influx of food and beverage or skilled food and beverage employees, where sports service has done well at bringing in people from their other accounts throughout the country. They've done a good job, but in their mind, as they move forward, they just couldn't continue to pay the commissions that they're currently paying, and where initially the thought was they would be provide, that we would be asked to take a less commission at the convention center. They came back and reduced the commissions across the board to a level that staff feels is unacceptable. Within the staff report that you have before you, I know this is probably a little bit difficult to understand where we put their current rent and what they have proposed, but it's probably a little bit easier when I go to the four actually where we broke down the four different facilities, and I'll just call your attention to the red number at the bottom. We used 2011, or fiscal year 2011, as kind of our matrix, if you will. In 2011, that was the year that we had the Open Championships at the National Bowling Stadium, as well as Safari at our convention center. As we move forward in 13 and 14, we won't have Safari at the convention center, but we'll actually have the ladies tournament at the convention center, which should be an additional $300,000 to $400,000 in concession sales. But in a nutshell, based on 2011 sales, their proposed rent would be $30,000 less at the convention center, about almost $40,000, not quite $40,000 at the livestock event center, and north of $85,000 at the National Bowling Stadium and Reno Event Center. Quite honestly, staff's opinion is yes, we and rightfully so, could possibly absorb a haircut or a reduced commission at our convention center, but there's no reason for reduced commissions at the Reno Event Center, the National Bowling Stadium, or the Livestock Event Center, is our position. Delaware North obviously does not agree with that. So at this point, what we've come to an impasse with Delaware North. Delaware North has offered us two options, if you will, for extending the agreement over the 3 months. The option that we're recommending is that we will pay them just a flat management fee, $25,000 per month for the next 3 months. I believe, and then we will retain any proceeds in addition to any proceeds in addition to operating cost and the management fee. We have budgeted about $300,000 over the next 3 months, the first 3 months of our fiscal year, to receiving commissions, food and beverage wise. Staff feels like those are very solid numbers. Between hot August nights and August, we have a good September at our convention center with National Guard. An outstanding September is the way it's coming out at the Reno Event Center, where we'll have 5 concerts. we feel like we can pay the management fee and come out whole and still come out with close to $300,000 over the next 3 months. The other option that Delaware North offered to continue to operate and pay us at 50% of the existing commissions. Even if we don't hit the full 300,000, we're going to be way north of 150, and that once again is a term that's just unacceptable. So what staff is asking you today, or what staff is recommending you today, is that you authorize our CEO to enter into a 3-month extension with Delaware North to continue to provide our food and beverage services at our 4 facilities: Livestock Event Center, Bowling Stadium, Event Center, and our Convention Center, under the new terms with the $25,000 a month management fee. And as a sidebar for informational purposes, we're prepared at this moment, at the end of this meeting, to release an RFP to approximately, there'll be 6 or 7 providers who've indicated interest in coming in and bidding our food and beverage count. So, in a nutshell, what our recommendation is today is that you authorize the CEO to enter into that agreement. Happy to answer any questions regarding their original proposal or their proposal now, and as what we're looking to do as we move forward. If we have any questions.
Thank you. Let me try the first question. Do you put this out, do you seek one provider, or would you divide it up?
No, sir. The general feeling is individually our properties are not real attractive, certainly on a national level, but when you put them together, we should be next year a $3.5 to $4 million account. Individually, we're not as attractive. And when we put them together, the food service can share staff in between facilities, no different than we do. We're just a much more attractive account, which should get us a better rate of return.
Contractor will take the good with the less good.
Well, what we're hoping for, what we really need to see, is an increase in our convention center business. And I don't think that's a great secret to anyone. And the difference in having Safari in 1 year, Safari is about a $700,000 or $800,000 bump, and what we need is 4 of those bumps a year. And I don't think that's a great secret, but we do have Safari in 13 and 15, and as we've talked about, John and his staff are out there actively pursuing business, and we have programs in line to drive business or to incentivize the staff to drive business to the convention center. We've got great bowling business in the bowling stadium. Our convention center business is picked up. As I said, we have the bowling stadium. The ladies will be at the convention center the next 2 years, which is another $400,000. So we've got some good things going, and just the reduction in commissions were, at least in staff's mind, too great. And we think we're better off to move ahead and see what the open market bears.
Are there any other questions? Any questions about the staff recommendation?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just an additional comment. We are repositioning this destination for success in the meetings and conventions market. And in the same way that I felt that upgrading our beverage service from RC Cola, which is a lesser-known brand, to what is now Coca-Cola, which takes place next month, I believe that there's a potential to upgrade our food service as well. And when I look at all the critiques we get for events that are held, we get top ratings on almost everything. It's almost crazy. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. One area we don't always get top ratings is in food and beverage. If we're going to bring more national associations here with high-dollar events, they're going to expect world-class catering like they get in other cities. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk to some of the leaders in the industry and perhaps get an upgrade in the kind of service that is presented to our current and future customers.
If I could also add, Mr. Chairman, just one other thing. It's our intent to go out with the RFP. We will get responses back within a 3-week period. We will carry this it's our intent to carry it to the Finance Committee meeting, which I believe is September 13th in September, award a new contract on September 27th with a takeover 4 to 5 weeks later. The strategy there is we want to make sure we have, it might be Delaware North again, but if it's a new food service, they have ample time to get their feet on the ground and get situated before Safari in January. So that's part of our timeline. It's a little aggressive, but certainly attainable with September Finance Committee, September board meeting for award of contract.
Sounds like a good schedule. Any other questions? Are there any? Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Item M. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just say, you know, this is in line with being conservative moving forward. We shouldn't just take an automatic hit from a company we're doing business with of that magnitude. So I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck. Now to item N and our legal counsel. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under tab N, you have a letter from the Chris Bard of the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority recommending an additional 2-year term for Mr. Hall as a representative of the airport service interest under 244A.601. All members of this board are free to discuss the reappointment, but only our 3 public officials can actively make a motion and vote on this.
Is there any discussion of this? This constitutes a nomination. This is a nomination. I believe we're free to go any other direction as well. No offense. Any discussion? There's a motion by Councilman Dortch and a second by Commissioner Weber. Any other public official wish to discuss? Oh. Is there any public comment on this item? I see no public comment. We'll close that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. The public officials only. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously.
Acceptance speech.
Congratulations, Mr. Hall. Let us move to item O. Appointment of board members to committees. Appointments were made. There was some correspondence, I think, relevant to certain members wishing to stay where they were. That was done. The sole change was switched by Mr. Dortch and myself. And I can't describe that, but you perhaps remember it. But that left everybody else on the same committees. Is that everybody's wish? Everybody good with that? Okay. Yes, sir.
And just an observation. I note that the Sales and Marketing Committee is made up entirely, except for yourself, of property owners. And that's really where the focus of the money is spent. And I just want to point that out. I know that Sharon Zadra has a great deal of marketing experience, so does Jerry Hall. And I simply make that observation at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. That was by design of a previous chair with input from marketing specialists and from the properties. And that design has been retained. But we hear you. Any board member is welcome at any committee anytime. You will have ex officio status if you're not a member of that committee, but your input will be welcomed. And I believe the chairs would so agree.
Amen. Amen.
This isn't a huge board, you know, might be bigger after the work of the governance committee, but or smaller, I don't know. But we, I think we can all work on that. All right, that action has been taken place by the chair under the bylaws. That is what is required. There is no vote at this committee. Anyone wishing to make changes, chair would certainly look at that if you have desires to change your policy area as to a committee. So we'll go past item O. Then items for future board meetings. Executive Director, President, and staff. Do you have any items at this time? I guess they'll show up in print if we don't hear them now.
Mr. Chairman, we do intend to make a very helpful, I think, presentation on our efforts at ASAE next month in Dallas. I think it's important for this group to know that one of the key tactics in our attempt to have a higher profile in the meetings and conventions market is maximizing that opportunity. So we'll be making a report out with visuals to this group once that is completed, probably the September board meeting. But it's sort of above and beyond what we would normally do.
Thank you very much. Are there any items for future board meetings from board members? Mr. Curtis.
Just the one that we discussed earlier, that I would like at some point a conversation, a discussion, explanation as to the foregone conclusion that convention sales represent the single greatest opportunity, and just to have the opportunity to consider it, understand it better, and discuss it a bit more. Thank you.
Any other board member comments? Just to comment as to the president's report, the slideshow, the photographs that were presented, I thought that was fascinating. I thought that was that's good thinking, and I don't know that it rises to the level of a board item, but this board member says, please continue in that vein. Whether you talk to EDON, whether you talk to the city of Reno, they've got initiatives with redevelopment areas, with Midtown, with their entire downtown area. You know where to go. Please continue to report to us as changes and improvements are made. I think it's time for a fish market in Reno. So.
Truckee River trout.
There you go.
Okay, any other board member comments? It is now time for final public comment, general public comment. Any additional public comment? Anyone? Anyone? Hearing none? There's a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.